Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. Saturday, what a day. Rockin' all week with you. These days are right. Won't you be mine? These days are right. Oh, please be mine.
Hello, everybody, and happy Mother's Day. It's not the way we intended to spend Mother's Day. It wasn't the way we intended to spend Easter and all these other weekends, but we're doing it now. And I want to give the mothers a big group hug from the pastors and elders and staff of Grace Church and let you know that you are loved, you're appreciated, and you're amazing. And listen, if you're not a mother, if you're watching this as a son or a sister, a brother, parent, cousin, or a single individual, this message is not only for mothers, it's for you too. But I want to just celebrate the fact that moms have been here to care for us, to nurture us, to wipe our brow when it was warm with a fever, to hold us when we cried, and to just encourage us and believe in us when nobody else in the whole world did. And we thank you, Mom, for being that person. And you know, really the church is a picture of what it means to be a mother, to love people, to care for them, to walk beside them. And for that reason, we cannot continue moving this direction. I believe there's a lot of misinformation continuing to come out of the press and really, sadly, even from our political pundits and figures. And I think as a church, I've been planning since the day we decided that the best thing we could do was close the ministry for the safety of our community. I started planning for the re-engagement. And we are planning now to reopen the ministry, and I will give you more details. Please make sure you're watching on Facebook during the week, that you take a good look at the conversations that I'm having and the lessons that I'm teaching. We've tried to limit those so that you don't have to be watching every single day. But at the end of the day, it's very pertinent information, and you'll get to know first when we're reopening the building. Now, the church hasn't been stopped. As a matter of fact, the church has thrived. I got to tell you a really cool story. This weekend, I came to the church to work, and on Sunday, as I pulled into the parking lot, I saw 4 cars. And actually, a couple of them were leaving, but I saw 3 that were still here. And I had a chance to talk to some people who said that they have re-engaged with church in general. All of them were new to this ministry, and they've been watching us online, and they just wanted to come over to the facility and watch the services in the nice sunshine in their car, social distancing, of course. And so I had a chance to just encourage them, and more importantly, I was encouraged. I was so encouraged. Guys, the gospel is moving throughout the world through this ministry. And make sure you're sharing these services on your Facebook page, on any social platform that you can, whether it's the web page. Let's share these messages so people can hear the hope that is given through the gospel of Jesus Christ. You know, I have 5 mothers in my life. Now, they're not all my mother, okay? I have one mom, and my mom is an extraordinary woman. My mom, Brenda Long, is just amazing. And she's this quiet but strong Native American woman, small in stature, big in courage and faith, and she's always been that for me. And then, of course, I have my mother-in-law, who is just as amazing. She's incredible. And over the years, she's made comments to my mom saying, hey, listen, I've had this guy twice as long as you have. It's time to give him back. You know, that's the argument that goes on. And then there's my wife, who I've had the privilege of watching be the most amazing mother to my 4 kids, and the incredible Gigi she is to her 5 grandchildren. And now we have Brittany and Kim, and I've been able to watch them parent their children, Brittany with 3 and Kim with 2. And they're amazing mothers after Kim's mom, Kathy, and my wife, Shelly. They take right after them, and they do some amazing stuff. You know, moms, we salute you. And I realize that Mother's Day comes with a lot of different emotions. But I wanted to just kind of talk maybe about some of the funny comments made by moms and people who love moms and appreciate moms. So I found some quotes that I'll share with you. Remember the old comedian Phyllis Diller. She had the wild hair and she had that cackle, voice. She said this, "I want my children to have all the things I couldn't afford. Then I want to move in with them." I love that. I love that line. Florida Scott Maxwell said this, "No matter how old the mother is, she watches her middle-aged children for signs of improvement." That is so true. Mom's always mothering their children. My mom is constantly telling me, I'm 50, almost 54 years old. She's telling me, slow down, you need to do this, you need to do that, which is great. That's mom. The great columnist and author Irma Bombeck said, "When your mother asks, 'Do you want a piece of advice?' it's a mere formality. It doesn't matter if you say yes or no, you're going to get it anyway." Leo J. Burke says, "People who say they sleep like a baby usually don't have one." True statement. Moms just go without sleep for years. Irma Bombeck says, "When my kids become wild and unruly, I use a nice, safe playpen. When they're finished, I climb out." And Tina Fey, the comedian, said, "I had to get back to work. NBC has me under contract. The baby and I only have a verbal agreement." Awesome line. And I just wrote a quote down. "All these working mothers are really guinea pigs in a crude scientific experiment to show that sleep is not necessary for human life." Poor moms. And then finally, the old Chinese proverb really says it best. There's only one pretty baby in the world, and every mother has it. It's so true. Moms love their children, and they love them. No matter if it's the ugliest baby in the whole world, it's the prettiest baby to them. And of course, all babies are beautiful. Moms display extraordinary character, but I want to say this. I know that some of you have lost your moms. I think of some of our staff members, Candy and Kathy, and it's just been very difficult to watch them lose their extraordinary moms over the last few years. And Candy just lost her aunt, and so she's lost her mom and her mom's sister, and at least they know that they're in heaven and they'll see him again. But it's difficult. And I know that for some of you, you didn't have a great experience growing up. Maybe mom wasn't there. Maybe dad played both roles. Maybe there was somebody else who stepped in to be a mom for you. Maybe some of you have been trying to be a parent and have children, and you can't. And you're feeling like, there's something wrong with you, and there's not. God just has a different plan and a different path for you. Could be adoption. It could be a foster parent. It could be just taking some more time for you and your husband. I don't know what your situation is, but I know this. You're an extraordinary person, whether you're a mother or not. Today isn't just a celebration of moms. Today is a celebration and an acknowledgement of amazing women. And we need to talk about the fact that women are amazing. That's why God created a woman, not from the head of a man to rule over him, or from his feet to be trampled on, but from his rib to be equal with him in humanity. And the truth is, women far exceed the exception and amazement of men, not because men are not valuable, but because without women, men would not be the people, the person that they are. None of us would be. Oh, and by the way, none of us would exist without women. We wouldn't be in this world without them. And so today, we're going to celebrate an amazing woman in Scripture. And I love this. I have never preached on Mother's Day about this woman. Her name was Deborah. And I had an Aunt Deb who went to be with the Lord a few years back. And she was a feisty lady. And she came to know Christ, and she made some extraordinary changes in the last 10 years of her life. God worked in her life in an amazing way. But when I think about this person, Deborah, in the Old Testament, she was a judge. And that meant that she was really kind of a ruler of a community. And frankly, she was one of the most important, most powerful people in Israel's history. And her story dates back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. As a matter of fact, Moses in Exodus 18 was told by his father-in-law, Laban, you cannot keep doing what you're doing. You cannot keep judging the people's problems day in and day out. You're going to kill yourself. his father-in-law Jethro. And he said, you can't keep doing that. Moses, you've got to appoint judges and let them judge the problems. Let them oversee the problems. And Deborah was in the line of judges. You know that there's only 7 women that have that kind of authority, that kind of influence that we see in the Old Testament. And Deborah was one of them. Her name literally means in the Hebrew a bee, like the bee, not the killer bee that's come here from, the murderous bee from Japan, as if we needed something else to be concerned about. But don't worry, I saw the sting guy. He's this dude that lets himself actually get stung by bees and even by the bullet ant in South America, which is brutal. And he survived. We'll be fine. Okay. But anyways, that her name means bee, and it might be because women are a lot of times small in stature compared to men, but they're mighty in strength. And their sting is amazing. They can let you know that they are there in the most subtle ways. Sometimes you don't know until they've gone off. You're like, wow, I think I just got a backhanded compliment, or I think I just got some counsel I wasn't asking for. But the story of Deborah, there's only 2 Deborahs in the Bible. There's Deborah, who's the servant of Rebekah, and then there's Deborah, the judge. And during this time, Deborah had to organize an army. She not only judged the problems, as you'll see in a moment, of the nation of Israel, but she had to lead an army. As a matter of fact, Israel had fallen into subjection to the king of Hazor. His name was Jabin. And Jabin was trying to destroy and enslave the nation of Israel. And so they had been under his thumb for literally 50 years. And just in that period of time, thousands of years ago, Deborah, this woman of influence, this woman of immense knowledge and incredible character, helps the nation of Israel rise to great victory. And we'll see that in just a moment. As a matter of fact, Deborah was called a mishpat. In the Hebrew, that means a judge. And that was a role that originated, as I mentioned, with Moses. And so, it proves that a woman has the ability, though she wasn't a priestess and she didn't go into the Holy of Holies and offer sacrifices, she was still a preacher. And you know what else she was? She was a worship leader, a great musician. She wrote worship songs. She led worship. She was an extraordinary person. And one thing that we see about this amazing lady that came from Ramallah near Bethel and near Ephraim, which would later become a community near Bethlehem, and Deborah agrees to go. But right in this situation, she agrees to go to battle. And she agrees with a man named Barak, okay? Not Barack Obama, but Barak, B-A-R-A-K. And he was the military leader of the time. And you're going to see in a moment how he leaned hard into the leadership of Deborah. And some have asked, was Deborah married? Yes, she was married to a guy named Lapidoth. And we don't know much about him, which another great statement to be made is that he was willing to take the back seat to his wife's leadership. That's not such a bad thing. As a matter of fact, in the community, in the church, we believe in a woman's ability to pastor, to teach. Some people ask me why we don't have a lot of women preachers or why women don't preach much. My wife has before. We've had other women who have spoken and taught from the stage. But I'll be real honest with you. Most of the time, it's because they don't desire to be up front in front of people. They desire to be caring and leading in different ways. So today, we're going to look at how happiness really has nothing to do with your geographic location. Happiness has nothing to do with your financial situation. Happiness has nothing to do with your physical condition. Happiness is all about your character. And we're going to learn from Deborah what real character is all about. Let me show you a little bit about the character of this woman. The first thing we see about Deborah is that she was calm in her faith during critical crisis. During a critical crisis in her life, she was calm. There's something that I've developed over the years that hasn't always existed. I'm a very emotional person, very passionate person. I used to have a tendency to just fly off the handle, say what I was thinking, just let it out. And even though I'm still very passionate and I'm still an emotional person, I've learned really more from my wife over the years to stay calm, to take a deep breath. My wife is always even-keeled. She has always been that way. She responds in a very thoughtful way in almost every situation. Not every, but almost every situation. And we see that from this amazing woman. Look at Judges chapter 4, verses 3 and 4. Sisera, who had 900 chariots, ruthlessly opposed the Israelites for 20 years. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for help. Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth, was a prophet who was judging Israel at the time. Now, just think about that. Here's how they go together. Sisera is going to destroy Israel with 900 chariots. In those days, thousands of years ago, that was a powerful army. And the Bible says that Deborah was calmly executing her responsibilities under a palm tree. Guys, this whole situation, this entire situation, smells fishy. Is there real illness out there? Yeah. Are people really dying? Absolutely. Is the death rate dictating that we stay in our houses? I don't believe so. I don't believe doctors, most of which I've talked to in our community and around the nation, actually believe we're doing ourselves a favor by locking ourselves away. But I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to say this. How are you responding to this situation? Because it's frustrating me. But I have chosen to move forward in a calm manner, but in a very proactive way. And my desire is to help ensure that this doesn't ever happen again. Deborah was calm in the face of impending danger. You know what else she was? She was a courageous leader. She had courageous leadership during overwhelming opposition. I mean, just look again at Judges 4:8. Barak told her, it says, I will go, but only if you go with me. Just think about that. Here's a powerful soldier, and he says, okay, yeah, I'll go to battle, but you have to come with me. Guys, that wasn't commonplace. You didn't just ask women to go into battle 3,000, 3,500 years ago. But she was such an amazing leader. Barak said, I'm not going into battle unless you go with me. And finally, her character was about complete commitment to God's glory during a testosterone-filled battles. You know, men just have a tendency to fight it out. You know, we just sort of well up in our testosterone. We're ready to battle. Women are calmly moving forward, a lot of times in the shadows, lurking in the background. Not Deborah. She was able to lead in a very courageous way, even though there were men all around her, I'm sure, puffing up their chests and flexing their muscles. That's something that I've always appreciated about a wise woman of God. Look at this in Judges 4. Very well, she replied, I will go with you, but you will receive no honor in this venture. For the Lord's victory over Sisera will be at the hands of a woman. So Deborah went to Barak to Kedesh. Now, here's something very important to note, okay? What she says is prophetic. She says a woman is going to win the battle, but I want you to understand something. It's not the woman you think that will win this battle. It's not the woman, Deborah, that delivers the final blow. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So she had that amazing calm faith during crisis, courageous leadership during overwhelming opposition, and complete commitment to God's glory during the testosterone-filled battles. You know, I think it's worth noting at this point that a woman oftentimes is willing to go unnoticed. You've heard the phrase, behind every great man is a great woman. I would say it, beside every great man is a great woman. But I would even say this, in the background, out of the spotlight of a great man is a great woman. I would definitely not be doing what I'm doing today, nor have been able to have done any of it without my wife. And in many respects, she's more capable of teaching and speaking about some of the subjects I talk about than I am. But because of her great character, I've been able to do this for 35 years. And my desire is to continue, our desire as a ministry. But it's not because my wife is some radical feminist. And I want to say something about this for a minute. Okay, do I believe in women's rights? Absolutely. Do I believe in equality? Absolutely. Do I believe that we had a lot of things going on in this country for many years that were not good? Absolutely. I believe that women should have always been able to vote. I believe that women should have always been able to go to school wherever they choose or choose the career path. And if they're doing the same job as a man, be paid the same as a man. Absolutely. But that's not the agenda of radical feminism. And I know I'm going to upset some of you. Don't turn off your computer. Don't turn off the TV. Listen, hear me, okay? Radical feminism goes way beyond equality of women. It goes to the point of emasculating men. It goes to the point of saying, okay, all you guys today, you're going to pay for the last 150 years. It's kind of like the same mentality that has continued to be really a bastion of division and segregation all over again that makes this country out to be something it's not. You know, this country has some imperfections, without a doubt. This country has some ugly past in some places, without a doubt. But this is still the greatest country on earth. And I'm not getting political, I'm being logical. And so when I talk about radical feminism, I'm talking about something that has sabotaged the happiness of women. It has done more an injustice to humanity and to women than it's ever done any good. I would propose this: it has hurt marriage. Radical feminism has destroyed marriage. Feminism radically has undermined child raising. Now kids are being raised by, daycares and by babysitters. And listen, I'm not trying to make you feel bad if you have to do that, especially in this climate. Some of you are like, oh, please, I need a break for my kids. I get it. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that your child should not be raised completely hour after hour by someone else. Feminism has created a two-income trap. Now we have this mentality that if you're a woman and you don't have a college degree, which is a good thing, and a career path, and you don't choose that over family, then you're weak. And so now we live in a society where you have to have two incomes, most people. And if you're some of those people that don't, and you're a mother who loves what she does, understand this: you got the greatest job in the world. You are changing the lives of the next generation. Feminism radically undermines all athletics. Guys, since we saw the uptick of Title IX and it ended male sports only, now we have this completely skewed approach where transgender athletes are running against girls. So guys who identify as a female are running against female athletes. That is not right. It is a lie to say that men and women are physically the same. Can a woman do the same thing a man does? Absolutely. Some of you are thinking I'm some chauvinist from the 1950s, and you couldn't be further from the truth. A woman can play sports, and in many ways she can play it better. I coached a women's basketball team. They listen better, they follow direction better than most of the guys I've coached, and I've coached thousands of athletes. But they couldn't compete against the same age athletes in the male teams. It's just, God created us differently. You're not going to see a power lifter woman lifting the same weight as a power lifter man, not at the top of their game. You might find a power lifter woman who lifts more than the guy that works at the grocery store. But it's apples and oranges. And radical feminism has really emasculated men. It's come to the point today where man is made out to be the enemy. And you can see it all over society. And why do I make that statement? Because I think it's important to say these things while I'm talking about a strong, powerful woman who was leading the army of Israel into battle and a man, one of the mightiest soldiers, would not go into battle without her. Okay, there's equality, but we're all different. You know, my wife puts it best. Why would I be foolish enough to say I am equal to a man in every way? That would just make me twice as responsible for things I hate to do, though I'm capable of doing them, like taking out the trash, working on the cars, taking care of all the vehicles, the yard, the barns, and so much more I don't have to do. I can do it, but I don't want to do it. Yeah, it doesn't mean that, I run around dictating what happens. I make every decision. I can think of 34 years of marriage now, almost 35 years of marriage, where 5 times that I can remember in my entire life, I said, no, honey, you know what? We're going to do this. I'm the husband. We're going to do this. All 5 times I was wrong. When I make a decision, I want the wisdom of my wife, and we make it together. She doesn't make it for me. I don't make it for her. We make it together. So here's what we need to understand. Celebrate the strength, the power, the compassion and the care of every woman. But don't do it at the expense of God's plan. He created them male and female for a reason. So in this story, I want us to take home how character really brings happiness. If you're handling this situation right now, as difficult as it is, with these character qualities, you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy no matter what's going on. And I want to show you 6 outcomes from the life of Deborah real quick. Let's take a look at these for about the next 20 minutes, okay? Because Deborah's character produced a happy outcome. And I'm hoping that for all of us, it can start today. If we've had a bad attitude for 45, 50, 60 days, let's start fresh today. The first outcome we see from the life of Deborah is that my life is peaceful even when the world is falling apart. Your life can be peaceful even when the world is falling apart. My mom was always the calm one in our family. I only saw my mom ever get really, really angry a couple times in my life, and it was mostly because of me. True statement. My mom was always calm. My wife has been always calm. I've noticed that women in general, even though emotional, are calm and they have a peaceful approach to problems. Look at Judges 4 again. After Ehud's death, the Israelites again did evil in the Lord's sight. So now we know what got them in trouble. They started doing evil. So the Lord turned them over to King Jabin of Hazor, a Canaanite king. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Hagoyim. Sisera, who had 900 chariots, ruthlessly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for help. Deborah, the wife of Lapidoth, was the prophet who was judging Israel at the time. So we go back and see the backstory on the verses I shared with you for a moment. Okay? While all the chaos was going, while the nation of Israel was being undone, Deborah was judging and she was leading and she was calmly in the face of impending danger executing God's purposes. Now, if you have ever gone through a difficult time, and I've had the privilege of praying with you or caring for you or sending you a text or making a phone call, I guarantee you've probably heard me say these verses. Some of my favorite verses in the Bible. Look at Philippians 4. And I want you to think about it in light of your business closing, losing your job possibly, the fear of death. Listen to this. God says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all that he has done. Then you will experience God's peace. Now, I want you to notice something. Pray, tell him everything you need, and then trust him, and then you'll experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. That is so critical. We have to do 2 things to experience peace. Pray and thank God. Pray and thank God. So right now in your mind, you can just say, Lord, I've let this whole situation get to me. I'm listening to the media. I'm getting angry. I'm listening to these conspiracy theorists. I'm listening to doctors that are contradicting each other. I need to be listening to you. Deborah had great character, and that's why she had peace in impending troubles. The second outcome in her life was something that will produce for us this: my wisdom becomes something people desire to have. Now, you know those people in your life that you look to, those people that you say, if I have a problem or I'm struggling to get an answer, I'll go to this person. A lot of you would say, it's my mom or my grandma or another woman. And in Deborah's case, she was that person. As a matter of fact, if you listen to people, I always love listening to athletes give speeches, or famous people give speeches, or successful people give speeches, because a lot of times it starts like this. I just really like to thank my mom. A lot of times dad, parents, but it always seems to be mom. I want to thank my mom. In Judges chapter 4, verse 5, it says that Deborah would sit under the palm of Deborah. That's what it was called. She had her own palm tree between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites would go to her for judgment. Day and night they would go to her. And you know what she had? She had incredible wisdom. Her character and demeanor was one that people sought her wisdom. And yes, she also had a supernatural ability through God's Spirit to understand the things that were coming, to understand prophetically what was happening. Now, I want to just say this. I don't care what is behind this virus, these sweeping lockdowns. None of that obscures the incredible sacrifices that all of you men and women in hospitals, doctors, nurses, first responders, police officers, the military, all of you. I mean, we saw how a paramedic, and it hit home for me. I have a son who's a paramedic. A paramedic lost his life by volunteering to care in New York City for COVID patients, and he got COVID and he died. It was a horrible sacrifice, but it was an amazing act of courage. I want to thank you. Over the years, I've had many nurses. I've had many nurses. That's not really a good thing. But I'm just going to say there are men and women nurses. They're all amazing. But most of the time, it's been women nurses. And they are so amazing. They care in so many ways. I had the privilege of having an assistant who is also a very good friend, her and her husband, Jeff, and their son, Mitchell. Jeff and Leanne and Mitchell Stauffer have been friends of ours for 30 years, some of our best friends. And Leanne served as my assistant for 20 years. And there were a lot of times, Leanne could do a million things. She was the queen of multitasking, okay? But there were a lot of times I'd be like, hey, where's Leanne? I need Leanne. And people would say, well, she's helping this person. They were sick. She was helping this person. They were sick. She was not just a great assistant. She was also like the nurse of the staff and the ministry. She'd spent 17 years as an oncology nurse and had this just deep desire to help people in the most difficult situation. She helped many of you go through cancer, get answers you couldn't get from the medical community. That's what a nurse does. And so many women have that innate sense, not that men can't develop it, but women by nature have it. And we see that in the life of Deborah, and we need to celebrate the wisdom of those around us, especially the wisdom of mom. I'm going to just prophetically make a statement, and I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, that there's going to be a lot of parades today. A lot of driving around communities and care centers and nursing homes where mom is. And if you hadn't thought of that, here's your one little free tidbit from Pastor Rick. Do something special for mom today. You don't have to let this situation keep you from showing her the love she deserves. The third thing that we see in the life of Deborah is that my confidence is unshakable when God is at the center of it. Even in the midst of things like this, my confidence is not shaken. I know that God is in control. Deborah had one superhero quality, and it was extreme confidence, not to be confused with arrogance, okay? There's one difference. Confidence can be understood as trusting or having faith in God or that higher power that some people allude to, like when you hear people that go to Alcoholics Anonymous, or you talk to people in other support groups that don't necessarily say God, but that's what they're saying. That's where you have ultimate trust in him, so much so that you say, I'm not afraid. Arrogance is having confidence in yourself, that I can accomplish this, and I'm the man, and I'm the woman. I've often said it this way. Here's a simple way to really understand the difference between arrogance and confidence. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now let's say it as an arrogant person. I can do all things, period. Now let's say it as a confident person. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. In Judges chapter 4, verses 6 through 7, it says, one day Deborah sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, who lived in Kedesh in the land of Naphtali. She said to him, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Call out 10,000 warriors from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun and at Mount Tabor. And I will call out Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, and along with his chariots and warriors to the Kishon River. There I will give you victory over him. What confidence. Think about that. Deborah is saying, you can't lose. And I'm going to say this to all of you. You can't lose. We are not going to lose. Let's just say, I have people ask me all the time, is this the end of the world? Is this the return of Christ? I don't know. Nobody knows that. I know this though. We win no matter what. We cannot lose. If this is it, if this is absolutely fulfilling the prophecies of eschatology and Revelation and Daniel and the Olivet Discourse of Jesus and some of the other prophecy passages in Thessalonians and Corinthians and 1st and 2nd Peter, then so be it. We win. We're with the Lord forever in whole, complete bodies, enjoying his creation. And if it's not, we still have confidence to move forward. Do not let your faith be shaken. You know what shakes your faith? When you walk by sight and not by the belief that God is in control. Deborah had that. And great moms, great women have that. And I'm so thankful for them. You know, there's a reason that 75% of all church, and I'm talking about the church across America, 75% of all volunteers are women. Now, I'm happy to say at Grace Church, it's only about 65%. And it might be even a little less than that. We have a lot of men that serve in this ministry, probably because of the great women in their lives that say, you're going to go and serve here. But most of the church is made up of the strength and faith of women. Deborah had that kind of faith, and it was confident faith. Be confident. We also see this, that Deborah not only had God-centered confidence, but her leadership made everyone around her the best version of themselves. My leadership should make everyone around me a better version of themselves. See, great leaders don't make themselves look better. They make everybody around them look better. You know, when this ministry has success in different ministries of the church, it shouldn't be about, oh, Pastor Rick did this, or, you know, the elders did that, or this person who's the pastor of that department did this. It should be about the success of the ministry as a whole. And you want to see great leaders in this ministry? They're the people who don't care who gets the credit. They just care about the job getting done in a way that glorifies God. That's greatness. If you are caring about your own glory, if you get mad because you don't get credit, over the years I've watched people volunteer. They say things like, well, Pastor, you just used us. I'm like, yeah, that's what God says. We're supposed to be used by God to do his work. It wasn't me using you or the church using you. It was God using you. And they get upset. Why? Because they don't get credit. Guys, if you get credit on earth, Jesus said that's your reward. Now, it doesn't mean we can't say thank you or do appreciations. We do all of that. But I'm going to tell you that more times than not, people will serve and not get credit for it. I understand that. Believe me, more than you can know. In Deborah's case, she didn't care about the credit. She cared about doing the right thing. I love my friend, my mentor, a man I consider my pastor, Rick Warren. He said this: while reputation is about what people say you are, character is what you really are. Guys, a great leader has a message worth remembering, a lifestyle worth considering, and faith worth imitating. That's a great leader. Now, Judges 4. Chapter 4, verse 10 says, then Deborah said to Barak, get ready. This is the day the Lord will give you victory over Sisera, for the Lord is marching ahead of you. You know, I love that. She cared about victory, and she let him know you can march with confidence. You know, my wife has always been deeply, deeply committed to the little things. And she has taught me over the years that if you're going to do something great, you got to do the little things. And she's taught that to our children. Hey guys, if you don't clean your room now, your life's going to be a mess later. And you may think that's a crazy parallel. It's not. You find any person whose complete house and room and everything is in constant disarray. Not that it doesn't. If you got kids, your house is always in disarray. But there are those people who manage keeping order. And it's those people who accomplish great things. Jesus said, if you do the little things, you'll be able to be responsible for great things. You know, not only was Deborah's leadership making everyone around her better, the fifth outcome was my victories surpassed my personal capabilities and human understanding. Her victories surpassed personal capabilities and really human understanding. What's that mean? That means that you do great things because God does them through you. You know, I think about over the years in this ministry, we've had more women on staff than we've had men. Out of the 67 or so staff members over the last 31 years, more than half of them have been women. And they have this amazing ability to serve and never care about other people getting the praise. You know, I've watched great men, especially great young men, who look like they're going to do great stuff, but they can't get out of their own way. They just want the praise. They want the spotlight. They don't understand what comes along with being in the center of stuff, with people seeing you. They don't get that. But I've watched women who have served and made men great in this ministry, and they rarely get the spotlight. They rarely get the pomp and circumstance. But you know what? They don't even care. Think about Candy Corliss, served in this ministry. My wife hired her when she was leading the administration in this church. And Candy has been amazing, and seldom, ever do people see her. She's never in front. She doesn't want to be. And that's the kind of commitment I'm talking about. You know, when Barak attacked, the Lord threw Sisera and all his chariots and warriors into panic. Sisera leaped down from his chariot and escaped on foot. So now the commander is gone. Then Barak chased the chariots and the enemy army all the way to Hazareth Haggiam, killing all of Sisera's warriors. Not a single one was left alive. Now, why was it important to find Sisera? Well, if a man or a person can raise up an army of 900 chariots once, they can do it again. If you're going to kill the serpent, you got to cut off its head. And now Sisera has escaped. And Barak's chasing, but they can't find him. And that brings us really to the conclusion of this message. And really, I want you to get this sixth outcome, because it's possible for you and me in the midst of this crisis. Look, my influence inspires others to greatness. It not only makes them the best version of themselves, it inspires them to greatness. Now, what that means is very simple. I often say, if you think you're a leader and you turn around and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. And that's a fact. Great leaders think they're leaders, and they look around and everybody's following, and they know they're a great leader. But some people think they're leaders and there's nobody there. I kind of changed things up. I wrote this: if you think you're a leader and no one is inspired by you, you're just blowing hot air. Came home last August and walked in my house, and it was so hot. It was almost 102 degrees that day. And I walked in the house, I think it was 105 in the house. And I could hear the cooler, the swamp cooler running. And I went to the end of the hallway and I stood under, it was just blowing hot air. Oh, it was so frustrating. I mean, I just started sweating there. And it unveiled another big problem, sadly, that I had to take care of, which was a leak and all that kind of stuff some of you have heard before. The point is this: if you're a leader and you're not inspiring people to greatness, you're just blowing hot air. What you say doesn't make them feel good. Just because you have authority in your job or your business or your house doesn't mean you're inspiring people. Great leaders inspire greatness. And they inspire others to greatness. Listen to how this story ends, because a woman did deliver the nation of Israel, but it wasn't Deborah. It was somebody that Deborah had influenced over the years. Listen to this. Jael, this is a woman, went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come into my tent, sir, come in. Don't be afraid." So just picture the scene. He's running for his life. He's got a blanket probably over his head. He's sneaking through this community. And there's a woman who says, "Oh, hey, come on in." She knew who he was. So he went into her tent and she covered him with a blanket. "Please give me some water," he said. "I am thirsty." So she gave him some milk from a leather bag, yuck, and covered him again. "Stand at the door of the tent," he told her. "If anybody comes and asks you if there is anyone here, say no." But when Sisera fell asleep from exhaustion, Jael quietly crept up to him with a hammer and a tent peg in her hand. Then she drove it through his temple and into the ground. And so he died. When Barak came looking for Sisera, Jael went out to meet him. She said, "Come, and I will show you the man you are looking for." So he followed her into the tent and found Sisera lying there dead with a tent peg through his temple. So on that day, Israel saw God defeat Jabin, the Canaanite king. And from that time on, Israel became stronger and stronger. I want you to underline it, mark it in your Bible, go back and look at it. Against King Jabin until they finally destroyed him. He finally was destroyed. The head of the serpent had been cut off. Not by Deborah, by another woman named Jael. Jael, a mighty warrior. You know, I just talked to a couple in our church going through a really tough time, and they have a daughter named Jael. And I said, God is going to bring victory because our battle's not against flesh and blood. Guys, right now, our battle, it's not even with the government, though it may look that way. It's not with, contrasting views of the medical world. It's against the enemy, Satan. It's against an evil force that we can't see. And the way that we nail our enemy's head to the floor is through the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's where victory comes. Deborah knew that. She was a musician and she wrote these words in Judges 5. "Lord, may all your enemies die like Sisera, but may those who love you rise like the sun in all its power." Then there was peace in the land for 40 years. Guys, we are praying for peace. Are you? Will you? We are praying that every life is transformed. No matter how frustrating this situation is, if we don't come out of this as a church stronger than we went in, it's been a waste. And God never wastes a hurt, but we sometimes do. Don't let that happen. When people ask you your views, hey, you can have a conversation, but make sure it always comes back to this. You know what? No matter what happens, I know I'm going to heaven because Jesus Christ died for me. Do you know that? Do you know for sure if you were to die, you go to heaven? Listen, friend, I'm going to tell you in about 1 minute how you can know. It's pretty simple. You understand that you're a sinner just like me. God said we're all sinners. If we die in that sin, we go to hell. Because God's not just a loving God, he is a holy God. He cannot dwell with sin. But he made a plan from the moment that Adam and Eve sinned, and original sin infected every human being from that time forward. He made a plan. He had a plan to send Jesus into the world. As a matter of fact, he prophesied that plan to Adam and Eve, and he said to the woman, your seed, prophesying about Jesus one day, will give birth and he will crush the head of the serpent, but his heel will be bruised. When Jesus hung on the cross, crucifixion is about suffocation. He had to push up with his heel to breathe and then slide down with his heel to exhale. And that was what happened to his heel. But he crushed the head of Satan. And the victory belongs to the Lord and all those who believe in Jesus. So Jesus died, and on the cross he said 7 phrases, and one of the last ones were these words: "It is finished." He paid the price of our sin. And guys, he paid for all the sins we've done, all the sins we'll do today, and all the sins we'll commit in the future. He paid it all. And he rose again. And you know what he requires of us? Belief. Believe that he did that for you. Trust in him, and you'll go to heaven. If you've never made that decision, would you make it right now? Can we pray just wherever you're at? Just bow your heads and close your eyes for a moment. Where you're sitting, if before I shared what I shared, you could not say, "I know for sure I'm going to heaven," just say this to God in your mind, silently. God, I'm a sinner. I've done wrong. But I believe right now that Jesus Christ died for me, and this is a very important part, and I trust in only him to save me. Thank you, God. Don't trust in your good works. Don't trust in your religious activities. Don't trust in giving up bad things and starting good things. Trust in Jesus alone. If you made that decision, we'd love to know it. Just text the word believe to 313131. Just text the word believe, 313131. And if you're a guest, text the word believe or a guest to 313131. We'd like to know who you are. Just take time and do that real quick on your phone. Got a gift for you. Just want to welcome you to the family of God. Father, thank you for allowing us to continue your work, Lord, for your glory. Thank you for these, I believe, in faith you've called into your kingdom. And God, we look forward to you delivering us from this nightmare situation so that we can be back as a church doing things in a stronger and greater way than ever before. In Jesus' name, amen. We're going to sing one more song, and then I have a few words to share with you. Thanks again for joining us. We love you, and I'll be letting you know soon when we're going to re-engage and reopen our facility. God bless.